use the mobile app correctly. And then just an info blurb on what information is available to you to then monitor activity at the different sites once they are up and running and reporting. So for today, I'm joined by my colleagues who are part of the SVS team. We have Kerry Dunnell, who's with the mezzanine team. She's our product owner on the developer side of things. And we also have our project manager for SVS within the National Department of Health, Mr. Stembele Jacha. So today they will be running the session mostly. I see there's already a hand, but it's gone down, so I think it was an error. So I'm just going to hand over to Mr. Jacha to do the opening for us, and then Kerry can then take us through the training thereafter. Stembele, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nyari. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be taking through, as Nyari has already said, without wasting any time. Just to reinforce, my name is Stembele Jacha from the National Department of Health. With regard to the SVS, people will mind what is SVS. So it's the name stands for Stock Visibility System. So the abbreviation now is SVS. So it's an app and also a web portal. So you can have it as an app or also a web portal. It is used to monitor availability of medicine, vaccines, which we are going to do that now, and other health commodities, including the PPE that is in all the hospitals in the country. And also we are using it for the health and safety information in all the clinics over South Africa. So it's being rolled out in more than 3,000 primary healthcare clinics, and also 300 hospitals have already using it for the PPE. So we've rolled it in South Africa since 2015. So we are using it widely. So in terms of the SVS, its objective is for prevention and resolution of medicine and health commodities stockout. Yeah, so in 2020, we have started using it for the deployment to public sector hospitals to monitor the PPE availability. So it's working very well. And then also it's used for platform for monitoring the availability of COVID-19 vaccine and ancillary items, which we have launched this year. We've rolled it out this year. So all the public and private facilities are using it for COVID-19 monitoring and reporting. So it has its key features in terms of, as I have mentioned, that it is a mobile and a web portal. So you can interface it using the cell phone, or you can interface with it using a computer, which is the web portal. So it's a network system. So which means your data on a web portal, it's a real time, anywhere and anytime. Once you get that information, you get into the app or you get into the web, the information that you see is the real information. It's not the yesterday or the last week's information, but it's the current information where, as a manager, you can be able to take stock and check how is your availability of medicine at that particular facility. It has also a store and forward functionality, which means you can store the information on it, and you will never lose the information, even if maybe we have not synchronized because maybe you were having a problem with the network when you were capturing the stock, trying to report, then it can store it on its own. And when there is a network now, then that information, we haven't lost it, then it will be synchronized and go to the to the web portal, and it stays there. So it's capable of a wide range of commodities, as I have mentioned: medicine, PPE, a vaccine, and also ancillary items that are being monitored through it. It is also an auto-generated system alerts. It tells you when there's a stock out, where your facility needs to order, or even if when we have an over stocking, so it tells you that no, we have overstocked now. So it helps you, it gives you that information. Then it's up to you to use that information. It also is also a cloud based data repository. So all the facilities that are reporting that information goes to a cloud there. It will never be lost. So the access to that cloud has been restricted by our developers. Not everyone for everywhere can be able to access the information that is on that cloud. Good news, it's a zero rated data channel. The department is paying for it. You as a facility down there, you don't pay. You don't pay for it. It's a zero rated. Yeah. Only sites which will be storing the COVID vaccine will need to use this instead of SVS COVID-19. So that is the key. Those are the key features of the SVS generally that we are talking about. It's not only concentrating on vaccine, but other commodities. Okay, you can move. Okay. That is the introduction. Move to another slide, please. Yes, yeah. So now we have also introduced the SVS COVID-19 instance, which also is the one that now we are talking about, because we will be responsible for reporting the vaccine for COVID-19 and ancillary items. So the other NDOH SVS is the old one that we are using in terms of monitoring medicine availability, PPE, and also health and safety information. But for COVID-19 now, so one for it is different. It is the one that has a tick, which you will see on your mobile and also on your computers. This mobile app and web portal are completely separate from the current version being used to monitor availability of essential medicine, as I have just mentioned now. So if you see the SVS COVID-19, this is the one that you are going to use. Why SVS in the COVID-19 vaccine supply chain? It ensures access to the relevant vaccine and ancillary item availability data to inform decision making. It's only for decision making for the managers, because it gives you the relevant information that you are having. Then it's up to you to use it and then take a decision. It also enables rapid turnaround time in the data analytics and planning process. It's easy, this is of reporting and data standardization, ensure optimized and equitable distribution of vaccine and ancillary items. So it gives you those features so that you can be able to get the turnaround information, and it's an easy reporting, and also even the standardization of the data, you see. So we know the data that we are getting from facility A is the same as the data that we are getting from facility B. Then from there, we can be able to analyze it at a short space of time, and make sure that it gives us the correct information that we want, so that as managers, so that we can be able to take a decision in terms of ordering and receiving, and know which stock do we have, how can we manage that stock effectively and efficiently. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, this is the vaccine and distribution site typology. This one, it tells you in terms of the guidelines of approval where you can store vaccine and where you cannot store the vaccine. Take for instance, on here there is also a storage center where you can store the vaccine for overnight, which you can use that facility for storing vaccine overnight. And there are some stores, facilities or typology where you cannot store a vaccine overnight. So it's gonna tell you the difference, whether when can you report medicine availability or vaccine availability, or can you not report. Like on a storage facility where you can store vaccine overnight, it's like a depot. There in a depot you can store it, and also on the health establishment like primary vaccine sites and or maybe hospitals. You see, those are regarded as health establishment where you can store vaccine. And maybe the depot when the medicine is being delivered to the depot, or even if the medicine is delivered to the warehouse, you see. So that is where you can report medicine availability, but you cannot store report on a mobile service, like maybe it's the truck, while the truck is still moving, delivering the vaccine. So it is not necessary for you to report uh, vaccine and ancillary items on that. And also on a temporary outreach establishment, or you cannot also be able to store, because you're not going to store it overnight. There are also some fixed outreach service establishments, which are also non-health establishment, where if you store medication or the vaccine overnight, then you are also required to report the vaccine. But it will depend how do you use it in your own environment. But as long as you store vaccination overnight, so this typology will be able to guide us at how to um, use the vaccine and distribution sites. Thank you. Yeah, while we are still there, we all know that in order for you to register on SVS, you must first register on an MFL, which is the Master Facility List. That is we are having here in South Africa. So there are some requirements for you to be a registered site in an MFL. If you have complied with those requirements, then and we have passed all the requirements that are being required for you to do, then you can start now registering on the SVS, which we will be able to report. And we also have this system which is linked to the MFL, which is EVDS, which is Electronic Vaccine Data System. So this is the one that is being used for patient scheduling. Then from there, then the process would be, firstly, we select and identify of a vaccine site on the health establishment. And then from there, number two would be the vaccine site activation. Then we activate that site that we are going to be reporting on it. And there, from there, number 3 would be then what is this thing now? Then from there now, which means now it will be the site that you will be reporting vaccine on a daily basis. So all this information now, it comes back to the supply chain, so that those guys from the supply chain management can be able to check the demand management, and also ensure the forecasting of the vaccine, to say, okay, they will be able to plan when can the vaccine arrive and where can it be distributed most, you see, and where is it required to be delivered. So it helps that that is the whole process of the vaccine and distribution side, if you have been activated on the MFL, which is the master facility list. That's why we encourage people, actually it is the requirement that you must first be registered on the MFL. Thank you. Another slide. Okay, yeah. Then instead of the stock visibility system, I've already mentioned that when there is a stock, whatever items that your facility will be allocated to, so we will assign those items to you, and then from there, which is number 2 now, then you will be required now to update your stock on a daily basis. You can do that in different ways. One would be the scan barcode, and then number 2 would be you can also update by selecting single stock items, and also you can do that by loop through all your items, or minimum basket reporting, where you will be required to report only those certain items that have been identified as a minimum basket. Then I think at the moment the barcode is not working in your facilities because of the compliance that you guys not having in your facilities. But the single stock item, you can do it. The loop through, you can do it, and also the minimum basket, you can do it on the SVS. But the functionality of the scan barcode is there on the SVS, is working very well. It does not have any hiccups on it. And then from there, now after you have updated the stock now, then you will be able as a manager now to monitor your stock in terms of checking the average stock out, the facility reporting to say, okay, in my facility, what is the percentage of the medication that I have? Am I reaching the stock out or not? You can also check the geospatial stock out map to say, okay, in certain district, this is where the concentration of stock out is. So, or this is where the concentration of overstocking is. Then I can be able to transfer to other facilities that do not have the medication. So that is how you monitor your stock. You can even get the report in terms of stock availability and stock out, the reasons of the stock out. You can also get the report in terms of the low stock and overstock reports. So that is where and how the stock visibility system works. It gives you all the information. It does the work for you. Then for you, it's just to use the information and also take a decision on it in monitoring your stock. Thank you. Yes, yeah. Then we come to the site enrollment now. Let me hand it over to Kerry so that she can take you through on the how to enroll. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sitilile. My name is Kerry Donnell. I'm the product manager for SVS. and I'll take you through the site enrollment process. Like Neri has said in the chat, you can feel free to ask questions on the chat as we go, and then we'll take the questions at the end of the presentation. So in terms of how to start using the application, there's 3 different methods. The one that I think will apply to most people is number 2, but we do have a mobile app version, which is an application that can be downloaded to an Android phone. So any Android device should be able to support it. The app will also work offline, and if you have a Vodacom SIM, it will work without any mobile data or airtime. It also works on other networks, but then it will use a small amount of data bundles, or if you have Wi-Fi. The desktop web version is a desktop application that works on your computer, so any Windows-based computer, and then you can capture stock levels from your computer desktop. It just needs some network connectivity like fiber or Wi-Fi. And then in terms of the inbound API, that's if your group has a more technical resource to send via API, we have that functionality. So I will walk you through the mobile and the desktop versions now. For all the methods of data submission, we can only have 1 person per site enrolling. So you either choose mobile or desktop. And once you've got it up and running, anybody else can log in on your behalf and submit it. But we still only need 1 source of data per site, because if we had more than 1 person trying to download it, we'd be getting potentially different information from different sources. So the system will actually block you. If you've loaded it on your desktop, it won't let anyone else load it on theirs. So that's just to let you know we can only have 1 source of information. In terms of the mobile app version, I'll cover it quickly, briefly. We have set up your sites, and then you can download the link that logs you into your specific site. So there's a short code here. It's bit.ly/EndioH-vaccines. And when you type that into your phone's browser, it will download an APK. APK is just an application. We don't run this through the Play Store because we have to set up specific sites and let people have limited access, so it's not available to the general public. That's why we have this short link where you can just search for it and download it. And then once you've downloaded it, so let me show you, you can either get an SMS with the information, or you can just type it into your internet browser and it will say, do you want to download SVS COVID-19? You can say download, then it loads on your device. Do you want to install it? Yes, install, and it installs the app. If there's any safety pop-ups that say, are you sure you want to install? It comes from an unknown source. It is safe to install. It comes from the Vodacom and Mezzanine developers. It's on my personal phone too. It's just because it's not coming through the Play Store, it gives you extra warnings. Then once it's installed, we have an enrollment code per site. So here's where you open it. It's called SVS COVID-19. And when you say continue, it will ask for user enrollment. This is so that we link you to your correct site, so that we don't have random people linked to the wrong site and reporting on their behalf. So this enrollment code we will provide to you. The one for the mobile is 6 digits long. And then once you enter it in, it will load your site name. So I'm test site. I can check that the facility's name is correct. Then this is just where you check facility details, that the information is coming through correctly. Now for the desktop version, it looks almost exactly the same as the mobile version. It just runs on your desktop. And I can actually show you live. So just to say, you would need a Windows computer, laptop, or desktop, and internet connectivity. You need your designated person, and we will be sending it to the group. The group leads will get the enrollment links and codes and distribute it to the relevant people. So these enrollment links, let me just end my PowerPoint. The enrollment looks something like this. It says embark.mobi/enroll. It's this long link, and when you open it, it will load a page that looks like this. It's called Journey Apps, and it says App Enrollment. These following options are available. Please use the desktop version. So you can say enroll on desktop. You click this link. And what it does is the first step is you just need to download a container once off. This is like an application that lives on your computer. So if you say download, I've already got it, but just to show you, it is not very big. I think it's 100 megs. You can see it's downloading in the corner here, Journey Apps. And once you've downloaded it, you must come back to this page. And this next instruction said, once installed, the button below should launch the app. So this is how you launch it. Because if you try and open Journey Apps first, it's not going to work as nicely. We need the enrollment link. Inside the enrollment link, there's this string of characters. That's a unique code for your site. So when you say launch, it opens the desktop application and simultaneously links you to the correct site. So as you can see here, I've installed it already. So I'm launching Journey Apps. And then that link is also enrolling me to my correct site. So you can see it just takes a little bit of time, downloads app data. And this is why you need Wi-Fi. And you can see here it says facility test site. That's my specific facility, so no one else is logged in. And then you can drag the corners. So the mobile looks exactly the same, except obviously a mobile looks more like this. But it's the same interface. So whether you look at the training material for mobile or desktop, it will work in the same way. The only difference is with the mobile, you can connect via mobile data or Wi-Fi, and on the desktop, you connect via Wi-Fi, where you could have a dongle behind it. So this is what it looks like. Please run through the checks. Please check that your mobile data is on, your location setting is on. And then we have a very important button at the top right called Synchronize. So if you press it, it turns. And when it turns green, then you know that the information that I've been capturing on this application has synchronized through to our web and cloud services where we store the information and where national level people can log in and see the stock updates. So the synchronizing is important. Otherwise, you could capture on your phone. We allow for offline updates, just in case people have no network connectivity. But if you don't synchronize, it won't come through. We'll go through some troubleshooting at the end about what happens if your synchronize button is not turning green and what you need for that. And then just this is where you check on the main menu. It's quite simple. There's record stock levels, view records, facility details, and exit. So if I go to facility details, this is just where I would double check, is the name of my site correct? In case you clicked on the wrong link or used the wrong code, you might have inadvertently logged into the wrong site. We can sort that out if you just let us know. So before you start capturing, please check this is your right site. The district and sub-district we're getting from the master facility list, but just sense check that it makes sense. You're not recorded as being in Mpumalanga when you're actually in Gauteng. There have been some discrepancies which we've been fixing as we go. So please just double check that it all makes sense. Then the build version and the journey container version, those are developer updates that if we need it, we'll ask you for it. But otherwise, you can just ignore that. Then I just want to check on the PowerPoint where we are. So all of this is in the slides. We've got all the screenshots of this process I've just demonstrated. So that's just the basics of getting up and running. But I think we'll go into the reporting requirements first and then show you how to do it on the mobile app. And I'll walk you through where you click and what you do. So let me just present this screen again. So we'll go through the reporting requirements. I'll hand back over to Mr. Situbile to walk us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, as I have mentioned, let me also take you through again to this vaccine and distribution site typology, so that I can reinforce it on your head. So what we are saying, that we are saying, if you see this typology, all the site typology, then you see that next to the storage or where at the warehouse center, there is a logo. There is a SVS logo. And also on the depot or wholesale, there's also an SVS logo. And on under the health establishment, whether it's a clinic or a hospital, there is also an SVS logo. And also on the fixed outreach service, which is also a non-health establishment, but is regarded as the secondary vaccination site. For you, there's also a logo. So it means that these sites that are having logo, it is where you can store vaccine for a night. Then this is where you are expected to report vaccine or ancillary items. But I think you, because you are the private sector, so you are not required to report on the ancillary items. But all these sites are regarded as the sites that you store vaccine overnight, and also you are expected to have SVS or reporting on those vaccination side. But the temporary outreach service and the mobile service sites, then those you are not expected to report, because they are only keeping vaccination for temporarily for a certain period of time. It's not overnight, so it's temporary. So you are not expected to report on it. Okay, let's move. Yeah. Then how is the reporting working? So in terms of the reporting, there are also the requirements for COVID-19 data capturing fields. There are some fields that you need to make sure that you capture them and then you report on it, like the current stock level of your site. What is the current stock level of your site? The expiry date of the medication, the stock that we have received today or yesterday that we have received it, then the stock that has been lost, the stock that has been issued to another, the stock that has been issued for vaccination, and also the stock that has been transferred, which means to another vaccination site. So the explanation would be the current stock level. You will be reporting on the vial counts in the cold room or freezer at the close of business daily in terms of the vaccine. The diluent and ancillary items is an individual stock item count in the main storage location, which is a back storage area at the close of business weekly. So the expiry date is the date of the medication or the stock or the vaccine that will have strength on it. So it's like best before. So that is the expiry date. When is the medication going to expire? And the stock that has been received, vial count or stock item count delivered since the last day of the update. So the new stock that we have received, then that is the stock received that we will be capturing the numbers for it. There's also a stock lost, so the item count of any wastage due to exemplary, maybe it's a breakage or expiry of it or storage. Then in the case of vaccine, this does not include the wastage due to partially used vials. So which means now if maybe you have not used all uh, the vials there on the stock, so which means now we have used some and there's still some that is left. So that one is not counted as the stock lost, although you are not going to use it because we have opened it, you see. So it stays as it's not a stock lost. The stock loss is due to the damage or maybe theft or whatever that will happen on it. Then the stock issued now is the vial count or stock items count issued out of the cold room that we have issued it from the cold room or from the main storage location back to a vaccination site. Then you will take it to the vaccination site so that it can be used there for a day during the outreach. So which means now that is the stock that we have issued after we have received it. Then there's the last one, which is the stock transferred. So that one is the stock count that we have sent to another vaccination site or a primary distribution site. So that is the stock transferred, that one, to say, okay, I'm not going to use this stock now, so let me transfer it to another vaccination site where it will be used because I'm not going to use it in my site. So that is the stock transferred. So those are the important fields that you have to report on using the SVS. Thank you. Another slide. Next slide, please. Yes. That is how to update the stock levels in vaccine received before. If we have received and began vaccination before SVS is set up at your site, please use the guidelines. So these are the guidelines that I've been talking about. I have mentioned all these: the current stock level, the stock expiry date, the stock received, the stock lost, the stock issued, and the stock transferred. So in summary, this is what I've been talking about. Thank you. Next slide. Okay. For now, the reporting frequency is daily. When we are using the normal SVS, the frequency reporting is on weekly basis. But because of this COVID-19, so the management took a decision to say the reporting for vaccine is it's daily. So by the close of business, then you need to have reported all those stock requirements that we have to report in terms of the current stock level, the expiry date, the stock received, the stock lost, the stock issued, and the stock transferred. All those fields we have to report it on the daily basis. Yeah. Then with they are saying that in terms of weekly reporting for diluent and ancillary items level along, preferable on Fridays, each and every Friday. And that's what they will be doing. And with the current medicine and PPE, as I have mentioned, that we are reporting it on weekly basis. That is the cycle on the weekly basis. Please ensure that data quality of all these fields must be updated as it is relevant with each data submission, because we want to get the quality data that we were getting from the facility. So that's why all this field needs to be updated on daily basis. Next slide. Before the close of the business. Then, yeah, from here now, let me hand it over to Nyari to explain a little more better for this calculation. Thanks, Nyari. Over to you.
Thanks, Tembele. So I think one of the key things that we'd really like to emphasize in this training session is how to update the app correctly. With the sites that we've already enrolled, we've noticed some data quality issues and site staff not really understanding how to update the receipts and all of that. Probably because you are using different systems for your day-to-day activities and your operations. So how we might calculate received or how we perceive the different fields to be populated will differ. So the point of the next couple of slides is to just give examples of a couple of scenarios based on the engagements that we've been having with people who are currently vaccinating and offering services and updating the app. And through these scenarios to then clarify how best to update the SVS app on a daily basis. So just to reiterate, one key point that Stembele noted is that the reporting frequency is daily, but to emphasize that it's once daily, one stock submission every day, and that is at the end of business every day. And it should summarize all the transactions that would have happened on site during the course of the day. So, for example, you may issue stock out of your main storage area, out of your fridges or freezers multiple times during the day, depending on the how active your services are, how busy you are. But we wouldn't expect that you capture each and every issue out of the freezer or bulk storage area as it's happening during the course of the day. We'd expect that that is tracked using your normal systems or business processes on the public sector side. They're using their normal stock cards or electronic stock management systems where they exist. So that will still capture the full end to end in terms of transactions that are happening on site. At the close of business every day, what we ask is that you total what would have happened in the different areas in terms of stock that you would have received if you've received more than one shipment, or you've received stock from the distributor and extra stock from another site that may be temporarily closing. Those kinds of things. We'd ask that you total all of the transactions and then capture the total once a day at the end of day when you're closing up shop. So in this particular example, there's a general basic calculation that you need to bear in mind when you're updating your current stock level. And that is that your current stock level should sum up what your opening balance would have been for the previous reporting cycle, plus any stock that you would have received on that specific day. And then deduct from that the issues, the total issues, the total transfers, and the total loss for that day. We will cover a couple of scenarios as well of what happens when you skip updates in between days. So this is assuming that the current scenario is assuming that everything is working as required in terms of sites are being able to report daily. And in this particular example, this is the first day of operations at primary vaccination site A. So I'm just going to read some of the information. You will get a copy of these slides at the end of the session. So hopefully you're not frantically writing notes and taking pictures. The slides will be made available to you so that you can interrogate them further. At this primary vaccination site, just to point out, based on the site typology that we have shared with you previously, it is linked to a temporary outreach service B and a mobile service C on the master facility list. And I just want to emphasize that it's quite important that where you've got temporary outreach or secondary vaccination sites linked to a primary one, that linkage on the MFL in terms of associating those different sites to the primary vaccination site is going to be quite critical for assisting us to triangulate the data and to monitor usage across all vaccination sites. On the first day of operation, at this particular site, they receive 100 vials, and they issue 20 to their vaccination rooms on site for on-site vaccinations. But they also issue 15 vials to their temporary outreach service and 14 vials to their mobile service. Of the 20 vials that are used on site, half of one vial remains at the end of the day, at the end of the vaccination session. And for the purposes of SVS, we consider that as issued. We do not capture the half under stock lost on the device. At the mobile vaccination site C, 2 vials are lost due to breakage. And at the temporary vaccination site B, all the doses that were issued to them are administered and they're used for vaccinations. At the close of business, this is how they would update their stock levels. So in terms of the transfers, you will note there's 0 for transfer because there were no transfers noted in this particular example. In terms of the issues, you'll note that we totaled there the 15. The first amount we add to the calc is the 15 vials that were issued to temporary outreach B, and all 15 were used. The 12 vials of the 14 that were used at temporary outreach C, we do not capture the 2 that were lost under issued. You'll see just above that under stock lost, we've got the 2 there captured there to reflect that the 2 vials were lost, and 12 were used at the temporary outreach C. And for the primary vaccination site itself, there's 20 vials. All 20 vials are captured as issued, even though 1 vial was partially used and some doses remained, doses which most likely would have been discarded at the end of the session based on the standard operating procedures about the use of partially used vials. So the total then, if we use the maths on the screen, is 47 vials issued. And remember, we're entering at a whole vial level, not at a dose level on SVS. Then under stock received, you captured the 100 that were received. And then when you're calculating the current stock level, then it's 51. It's 0 for the opening balance because this was their first day of operating and they received 100 vials on their first day. So it's 0 plus the 100 and then less the 47 issued and the 2 vials that were lost will give you a total of 51. Just important to note, SVS is not a transactional system, so it will not, it should not be used to capture multiple transactions during the course of the day. It's a once-off summary of what has happened during the course of the day. So summarize all the transactions. Thanks, Kiri. Okay, in terms of day-to-day reporting then, it's important, particularly for those sites that are receiving stock directly from the distributors, that the stock that you're physically receiving balances back to the the data that's being captured on the SVS platform. Part of the challenge that we've noticed is that the figures are not balancing back. There's a separate data set that we have access to that is from the distributors, from DSV and BioVac, where they've confirmed the quantities that are being delivered to all the sites. And the assumption is that if you're capturing your SVS data correctly, then all of that information should tally back. The quantities that are moving through sites should tally back to what's on the confirmed receipts or delivery notes from the distributors. And this isn't the case. So this is just to illustrate the importance of making sure that on a day-to-day basis, number one, we submit data daily. Number two, each individual update is captured correctly in terms of the previous example of how to populate the different fields based on the activities on site. And that number three, on a day-to-day basis, we just make sure that you're mindful of what data would have been captured on the system and are aligning with that. So in this particular scenario, there's primary vaccination site 1, and they receive 100 vials on their first day of operation. Then they issue out 20 for on-site vaccinations and transfer 50 vials to a completely different vaccination site. Of the 20 vials that are issued out on site on that particular Monday, 3 remain. 3 vials are returned. One of them is partially used, and the other 2 are not used. They're not opened, and they're the cold chain was maintained, and they're available to use for the next vaccination session. If you look at the screenshot in terms of the Monday update, how you then capture this information is the 50 vials that were transferred out to a different site would be captured as the 50. And under stock issued, it's 18 vials. It's the two that were issued out but were not used and can be used for the next session. You don't count those under issued. At the end of the day, you're going to accept them back into the freezer, into the bulk storage area, so we don't count them there. But the one that was partially used, we would count that as issued. Nothing was lost, and the 500 that were received on the first day, on the previous day, is captured under stock received, and then you calculate your current stock level, and it comes down to 432. On the second day, the same primary vaccination site issues 30 vials to a temporary outreach service and 50 to a mobile vaccination truck. And both of these are linked to the primary vaccination site on the MFL. Only one vial is broken at the mobile vaccination truck, and all other vials that were issued out were used. So then if you look at the Tuesday update, there's 0 for stock transfers because there is no transfers on this particular day. And the stock issued would reflect as 79 minus the 1 broken vial, which is now captured under stock lost as the 1. There was no stock received on this particular day, so that would be a 0. And therefore, your calculation, just to point out there, when you're calculating your current stock level, your opening balance would be reflected in there. So there was 0 received, but your opening balance of 432 is captured there. And when you minus all of the issues and the losses, it comes down to 352. Just to point out, and Kerry, I think it would be useful at this stage to just go into the app so that we can point out how you can see the history that is captured on the device. In the introduction, Stembele did mention that every stock update that is captured on the device is stored locally. And then you can have, at the site, you'll have visibility of all the stock updates that are ever made. Kerry, if you could go back, it kind of moved really fast, so I'm not sure that everybody saw how you got there. If you go back to the main menu. Okay, thanks, Kerry. So on your main menu, we would have gone through the record stock levels tab. Below that, you'll see there's a view records tab. And when you go into that, it will show you, it'll give you the option to select stock updates. So all the stock updates that you would have ever made on the device. And you can select there the category. Is this a category or the stock item that you'd want to update? So if it's the vaccine, whichever item that you want to check back, what was the closing balance or the last data submitted, you'd select that and proceed. And on the next page, then it will show you any update that's ever been made for that particular item. And you'd select that update, and it will show you the details in terms of all the fields that were populated at the last updating session. So in this example, the last current stock level that was captured was 7 with an expiry date on the 26th of June, 2021. Nothing received, nothing lost. Thanks, Gary. You can go back to the presentation. Just to illustrate in terms of continuity, if it's different people at the site updating the stock levels, then that is the best way in terms of making sure that you know what was previously updated and can continue with that. So the last, I think this is the last scenario that will be taking you through, and it's the one I mentioned where life happens And although we're asking for daily stock submissions for the vaccine specifically, there are instances where site staff may not be able to submit their stock levels within the reporting window. When that does happen and a reporting day is skipped, it's important to make sure that the information is collated to reflect any transactions that would have happened that were missed. Again, just to emphasize that this information that is captured on the SVS is going to be verified against the information coming from the distributors in terms of confirmation of amounts delivered to different vaccination sites. And it's also going to be checked against the EVDS data in terms of the a number of vaccination events that are captured on the EVDS, and trying to tie that back to the stock issues that we're seeing, the stock movement that we see on the SVS platform. So it is quite critical that we make sure that the stock balances on the system and that it's used accordingly. And just before I go into the example, just to emphasize that SVS cannot be used to capture data retrospectively. So if you miss the reporting window, you cannot capture data on the next day retrospectively. I'll give you an example. At one particular site, they were operating really late into the night, so they were updating their stock levels the next morning for the activities that summarized the previous day, and they were continually reflecting as non-compliant because they wouldn't have submitted their data within the reporting period. So when you skip the reporting cutoff, and that is at 11:50 every day. So every day at 11:50, the system will cut off in terms of looking back at all of the transactions of the day and summarizing which sites have reported, which sites have not. If you miss that reporting period, when you update the next period, it's important to then collate what would have happened the previous transactions that may have been missed and not captured on the device. So going to the last example, for this primary vaccination site, on a Monday, they receive 100 vials and they issue 20. 3 of them are returned. 1 vial is partially used, and the other 2 are fully used. So in terms of the whole calculation, we'll go, the current stock level for the Monday is 482. And everything went well on the Monday, and they were able to submit their data on the SVS system. So they captured the summary of events on SVS. On the Tuesday, there's a COVID-19 case on the premises, and it's shut down for deep cleansing. But before it shut down, vaccination services had already begun, and 15 vials had already been issued on site and were used, and 100 vials were received during the course of the day. When the facility closes, it closes for 2 days, and the app is not updated. The next day that the next time that they open for services is on a Thursday, and they receive the they receive 100 vials, to replace the 100 that were returned to the distributor on the Tuesday. Apologies, I think I had said that on the Tuesday the 100 vials were received from the distributor. They returned to the distributor on the Tuesday, and on the Thursday they receive 100 replacement vials. 20 vials are issued for on-site vaccinations, 25 are issued for temporary outreach service, and 35 are issued for the mobile truck that they are supporting. For both the temporary outreach and the mobile service, they are linked on the MFL, just emphasizing that because it is really important. And for the temporary outreach services, 2 vials are not maintained in cold storage and will not be used, so they are considered as lost. In terms of how then they would update the SVS app on the Thursday, remembering and bearing in mind that the last time that the site would have updated is the Monday, the previous Monday. then they would need to total all of the transactions that would have happened on the Thursday as well as on the Tuesday that they closed shop, having conducted some level of activity, but not having had the opportunity to update stock levels. So in summary, it's just showing here that all the transactions for the over the 2 days, in terms of the transfers, the issues, the losses, and the receipts, you would total them and factor them all into the calculation in terms of determining your current stock level. Yeah, it's just important, really, really important that we ensure that the stock always balances back, especially if it is a site that is receiving stock directly from the distributors. Just emphasizing that. Thank you. Thank you, Kerry. If you can move on to the next slide.
Thanks, Neri.
Sure.
So I will just be taking you through, bearing in mind the definitions that have been covered by Sitibile and Neri. I'll be taking you through technically where do you click and what do you do to record these stock updates. So I will rather do it on the live app and demonstrate, then it'll be more interactive. But just to show you that these are all captured in the slides, for example, each step we've got a screenshot and an instruction. So you can follow along in your own time if you have any points where you're getting stuck. So let me just exit here and I'll show you on the PowerPoint. So if we just go back to our main menu, and we just showed you how to view the history, but if you want to capture a stock update for the first time, it's the first menu item, record stock levels. So when you click on it, these are the different methods to record a stock level that Sitimila covered briefly in the introduction. And as he was saying, the scan barcode functionality is not currently active because we were unable to get all the barcodes ready from the suppliers and the fast-moving nature of the vaccines. So the rest of the items are working. So single stock item loop through and the minimum basket list. So in terms of single stock item, I think for the private sector, this is your easiest and quickest way of updating, because if you're just updating on the vaccine, then when you select from your category, you can choose the ancillary items won't apply, but you can choose vaccines as your category and press proceed. And then you just select. So I still have, this is my training device. I have the COVID vaccine that was used in the Sisonke trial, but you'll have the Pfizer vaccine loaded and the J&J vaccine if applicable. So you just choose from the list and click proceed. And then what it will show you is the top section in gray. So I'm trying to highlight on my screen. This top section is a summary of what has happened before and can't be edited. And then from the place where it says, please provide updated stock values below, this is where you can click inside the boxes and enter your new levels. So I hope this is big enough. I can't really zoom in. I can make it wider. So the beginning will show you the inventory code. This is the NSN for the stock item, as well as the vaccine item name. So sometimes it gets cut off on your screen. You can see the full name here just to double check. And then it will also give you the date that you last updated your stock. So I have not updated this since the Thursday, the 24th of June. It will tell me when I last updated it and then what was my current level at that time. So like Neri was saying, I would now have to play catch up from Thursday the 24th and summarize, give a high level summary of what the current values are from Thursday. And then the expiry date at that last update was the 15th. Yeah, this was it's all training data from my side. And then underneath where it says, please provide updated stock values. If you're on your mobile phone, you tap your finger in the box. If you're on your computer, I've got my mouse here. I just tap inside the line. And then I'm going to do that same first example where my current stock was 51. And then stock received, I had received 100, I had lost 2, and issued 47. So you can see it balances that I transferred none. My 47 issued and my 2 lost balance out to I have 51 remaining from what I received. And then you'd enter the earliest expiry date for that batch. So I think it's unlikely you'd have 2 different expiry dates, but if you do, you pick the earliest expiry date for the stock in question. And so, for example, if I say this expires 15th of July, use the date picker, pick the day. You can skip between the months and even the years if you need to, using the shortcuts, and then just select your month, day, month, year. So once I've entered all of this, if I made a mistake and I needed to change this, you can backspace. So I haven't moved on to the next screen. You can backspace and keep typing. We do let you just fix you can change anything while you go. And once you say proceed, it will also give you a summary of what you've just entered to confirm, just double check that you're happy with it. And once you say accept, that is the submission. It's already submitted. If I need to edit, just click back on edit and just go, like I said before, you can say, actually, I forgot I did transfer 2, but this is going to change your current stock levels. I'm not going to do maths in public. So let's just put the expiry date back in again and select proceed. And once I accept, it says you have successfully updated the stock item. That's confirmation that you have submitted it from your side. But remember, even if you've submitted it from the phone side, I've updated it. It's stored on local storage, your desktop or your PC. And then you will still need to, so you can see it's already automatically syncing on my desktop. But once you've submitted, the last thing you do before you log out for the day is press the synchronize button at the top right-hand corner just again to be 100% sure that you have synchronized. And then you can always exit. If you enter again, we are making sure that this last synced update refreshes for you. But you can see this is the same time, 1st of July, I last synchronized 12:07:35. So I can confirm that I've synchronized before I shut down my computer and go home for the day. I can say I've synchronized and I submitted my stock update. So that's the short version of how you submit. I'm just checking quickly if I've missed anything. The other thing is, if you, like we said, you can't update for yesterday, and if I'd made a mistake in my current update for today, the only way to fix it is to submit one more stock update for the same day. So we will take the most recent version. So we're still only looking for one per vaccine, one update per stock item per day. But if you made a mistake, we will take the most recent one. So if you submit it again, I'm not looking at a transaction or adding them together. But what the system would do is, if that previous one I just submitted was a mistake, I can redo it. So if it was supposed to be 55 and the stock received was actually 105, for example, you can fix it here by fixing it, resubmitting. So if you received an extra 5 after you've submitted, you're not submitting just an extra 5 that I've received. You're redoing the whole calculation for the day, summarizing it again, and submitting your most recent version of the summary. And then the system will just look at that most recent update, if that makes sense. So now I can resubmit. I've added my extras. I don't think this adds up mathematically, but just for example, and then this is my latest update for today that will count as my final update. The other recording methods, so that single stock item, if you do loop through, it's going to go through everything that's assigned to your device. So my test device has ancillary items. It's set up for public and private sector. So when I do it, it goes through all 17 cotton wool balls, etc. But on your devices, it should only have the vaccine, I think, and the diluent. So it would just go through like all three or two that you have. So the loop through is more beneficial when you have a longer list of items, and once you're finished, when you say proceed, it moves on to the next item, but it works the same way. And then you can either order it by alphabetical, by category, or by minimum basket only. By this we mean the minimum that needs to be reported on, which is the vaccines and diluents. So your minimum basket is the same as what you're expected to report on. And then the minimum basket reporting list is just showing you what I updated this week. So you can see I have updated my, if you want to double check, there's my COVID vaccine. I updated it today. What was my current level? You can see I've taken the most recent value, not the 51. This only shows you on a weekly basis, but you can check the last update date. You do need to update it every day. So you can just use this as a shortcut. Otherwise, if everything is too confusing, just focus on single stock item, select your one vaccine and or the other one if necessary, and just use that method. These methods all get you to the same place. They just have different purposes, especially when your stock list grows very big, like our medicines app in the public sector has about 200 items. So therefore, these other methods of updating are helpful for them. So I hope that makes sense. I do just want to cover on the slides quickly. You can update in areas with poor signal, so you can capture offline, as in when you open the app, everything will load, you'll be able to click around. It's not like a website where you have to be connected to load the app. So even if you have it on your Android phone and you're in the deep storeroom area, you'd still be able to capture it, but then you would have to just synchronize afterwards and move to a better place that has connectivity. I think if you're on a desktop, there's less of an issue, but just so you know, it will need the connectivity. That's why once you've said I've submitted, that's great, but then you must double check that you have synchronized and that the last synchronized date is 100% correct. As Neri mentioned, the cutoff time is 10, it's midnight. So at 10 to midnight, we just run all of our processes and save the records for the day and reset it for the next day. So if you updated all your stock at 8 p.m. but you didn't synchronize, you might miss that day. It would look like you were not compliant for that day because you submitted it, but you didn't synchronize it through to the system. So we give you all the way till midnight to make sure you've synchronized. So we have got a basic troubleshooting guide that's in the slide deck. It's covering what I've said. So if you've submitted something incorrectly, resubmit, but resubmit the whole summary, not transactional. Don't just add on the extra losses or the extra receipts that you have. You must recalculate in its entirety and resubmit. And then the synchronizing, we have covered it. You must press the top right, wait for it to turn green. And then if you struggle to sync, we have a troubleshooting guide. So just on the mobile side, you'd have to have your mobile data switched on or your Wi-Fi. So obviously, if you've switched off your mobile data for whatever reason, it won't be able to connect. Likewise with airplane mode, if it's on airplane mode, there's no network. And ensure you have sufficient signal bars. So if you're in an area where the signal drops to a 2G 1 bar, it might not come through. Although this application doesn't need very much, it's synchronizing a very small amount each time. So it should work. Even in low network areas, we do have quite good success. And then very importantly, your date and time do need to be set correctly because that's the timestamp that we use. So if you're living in a day in the past or your time is slightly out, it might mean that you also miss the reporting cutoff because we're taking the date and time from your device, which should be correct. Set it to the network time. And once it's set to the network time, that's pretty accurate. So I'll show you on the actual device, but these are the troubleshooting steps that you can take to check if you've got connectivity or not. Let me just exit. So on the main menu, there's top 3 dots. The top right-hand corner, there's 3 dots. And then it pops open the side panel that says Diagnostics. When you click on Diagnostics, it will run through some diagnostics on your computer or your mobile phone. So I can say rerun. It starts looking, is my storage okay? Yes, it's green. Connectivity, I don't know if you saw, but it was gray, and now it said yes, check, it's green. GPS is not supported on desktop, but that's not a problem. The yellow means it can still proceed even if there's a warning. And then my application, it's saying tick, it's green. So this is what you'd want to see, is that everything is green. That means there's no issues. If you see, we've got it in the slides. If you see that there's something like a red X on connectivity, that means the phone is, or the device is not picking up connectivity, which means you do have a problem, you won't be able to sync. So then you must just double check, put your Wi-Fi on, turn the mobile data on and off, just check all your connectivity, and then rerun the diagnostics until the connectivity turns green. So that's how you would check for yourself, is it syncing, is the network up and running or not? If there are major issues that you're unable to resolve by following these steps, we do have a support desk, which we'll cover as well, but we would appreciate it if people can try and do these basic checks first, and then escalate anything that's not resolved, just to aid us in helping people who really need help as quickly as possible. Then in terms of this is just the date and time, make sure that it's accurate, because it could affect your reporting compliance, and all the data submissions are time-stamped using your device's date and time setting. And then lastly, if there's any updates, we sometimes have to fix the app or release new features, which means we will push an update to you, and it will look like this blue banner at the top that says an app update is available. Please select update. If you select later, you might forget. So if you see it, just update it. And then it also doesn't use network data bundles. If you're using the Vodacom network, it's 0 rated. If you're using Wi-Fi, it shouldn't be a problem. And then if you're using a SIM card, another network, it'll just use a small amount of mobile data as well. And then on the desktop version, you must just make sure you have network connectivity. And when you press the update, you'll see the build version will change. So this one was 2.2.3. I think we're already quite far beyond that, because we're continuously working on improving the application, fixing things, releasing new features. So please update so that you can be on the same version as everyone else, especially if we add new anything new to the reporting, like stock loss reasons, etc. we might add, and then you need to be sure that you're on the right version. So I think that covers the mobile side. Then in terms of user support, we have our first line support and second line support, and any technical problems. So with this project, we're not issuing devices to anyone. It's using your own device and SIM card, but you can still contact the support desk if there's a bug or an error message, or if you're very stuck with your connectivity and nothing is working, please contact us. The preferred method is email, so the ticket is created and we can track it and get back to you as soon as it's resolved. But we would prefer that you escalate issues through your group lead so that they can consolidate. If a lot of people are having the same issue, they can consolidate it for us and we can address it as one ticket and reply that way. It would be appreciated. So I think that covers the mobile and the troubleshooting. Nyari, is there anything else we need to cover?
The web, just to to say, I don't know, did we not go through the web slides?
No, we haven't. I see we have 9 minutes remaining. I can go through it.
No, I can cover it really quickly, just the web overview. And while Kerry's pulling that up, just to say, for the private sector, we have created a user role on the system for the group leads specifically that will enable them to access the site, to have oversight of the sites that are in their specific group, in terms of the reporting, the enrollment keys. I saw a question in the chat about the enrollment codes. I'll explain shortly how that should be managed. So just in brief, explaining the web process. Once the site information has been captured on your handheld device or on the desktop, whichever two you opt to use, whichever of the two you opt to use rather, the information becomes available over the web portal. And like Tembele said earlier, access is restricted to those who have completed the confidentiality agreement and gone through Mr. Jaha to get approval to access the data on the web portal. But once you have submitted your information and your user role is created on the platform, then this you'll use the URL that you see on the page, COVID-19 vaccines za.app. Put that in your web browser and it'll take you to the web page that you'll see there. Your mobile number that you would have used in the confidentiality agreement will be used as your username. So you just type in 2772, whatever the rest of your number is. And then the password will be sent to you in a system-generated SMS once your details are captured on the system. And then you can access the platform using that system-generated password in the SMS. The first time you log on, you will be prompted to change that password to something that you will remember. But that is the process. Kerry, if you can go to the next slide. Kerry?
Yes, sorry, I was unmuting. So this is the web portal. And then just a high-level overview, as Neri said, the logging in. There's just a few steps to get access, but that will be covered, I think,
Right.
the process.
Oh, just to say, I think I did mention it, but the confidentiality agreement goes to Mr. Jaha. And we've been given the details of the group leads, and we've been in communication with them. If you're not aware who your group lead is, then I would reach out to Mr. Jaha, myself, just to get clarity on how you can channel your queries, your requests. We'd ask that you keep the format of going through your group leads just so that the process is manageable on our side and we're not dealing with too many individual requests. But yeah, once the confidentiality agreement is completed, it is sent through to Mr. Jaha and we will facilitate registration on the platform. There's a difference. I think one of the things, feedback that I've gotten in terms of the questions on the SVS process, there is a difference between the spreadsheet that we send out to all sites in terms of the details we need to have populated in the spreadsheet so that we can load individual sites onto the platform. There's a standard template that Zenobia has been kind enough to share with all the prospective sites, with the information from the MFL in terms of your site description, the name, the MFL code, the facility ID, all of the information as it appears in the MFL. And it's important for us to have that pre-populated and sent to us so that we can load the site on the SVS platform for the enrollment details to be generated and sent to all the site representatives so that they can activate and use it. It is different from the process that you would need to follow to gain access to the web portal portion. So I just wanted to provide that clarity that for enrolling the actual site on the platform for reporting, that's information that's shared through the SVS information request template. And then for access to the web portal is a confidentiality agreement that has to be completed by each individual who would like access to the web portal and channeled through Mr. Jaha. And please do keep us all in copy. We're working very closely together, Mr. Jaha, Kerry and myself. So whenever you do email Mr. Jaha to also keep us in copy. I think that's it on the web portal and support process. Thanks, guys. Given that we've only got a couple of minutes left, I think we'll address the few questions that I have seen and noted in the chat. How do we get, Rufus is asking, how do we get an enrollment code? So like I've mentioned, you'd go through your group lead. The group lead, we have submitted the templates to all the group leads that we've been put into contact with. And once the site details are populated in the template, we cross-check that information with what we have accessible to us on the master facility list on the MFL. We load the site on the platform, the enrollment details are generated, and we send those back to the group leads, and that'll be your enrollment code if you're using the mobile option, or the enrollment URL if you're using the desktop option. And that will be sent to the group leads for dissemination to the individual sites that need to activate and report on stock levels. Okay, Rufus is also asking, how long from submitting the forms will it take to get access, as I have done this a while ago? So I assume you are talking about getting access, Rufus, to the web platform, and you're talking about the confidentiality agreement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So apologies for the long wait, but part of the challenge is that we've had to create a new user role for the different groups. We are bound by the data sharing rules of the POPI Act and all. So we were busy trying to develop a user role that would make sure that we don't share information across groups or across sectors. That work is coming to a completion this week. If you had already shared your confidentiality agreement, I'd just ask that you would resend it through probably on Monday. From Monday onwards, we will be looking at loading new users for each group under the specific the group that you are registered for, and then probably in the next session that we have in terms of the SVS support webinars, take you through how to then access the platform and how to use the platform and get the best user value add out of it. So apologies for the long wait, but yeah, that is something that we are looking to try and do in terms of getting you access from next week onwards. Joelle has asked, can other pharmacists access the app if it is using my mobile phone? So no, Joelle. I think Kerry did touch on it at the beginning. There's a one-to-one relationship between the app being active on a device and on the platform. We cannot have more than one device active at any point in time, simply because of that issue that Kerry highlighted about having too many versions of data coming through to the platform. So the moment one device is activated, it automatically blocks any other device using the same enrollment details, the enrollment code or the enrollment URL from enrolling. You'll get an error message if you try and use enrollment details that have already been used for a different device. You'd actually have to unenroll that existing device and then re-enroll for the new device that you might want to use. But if the app is active on your phone, and it's a phone that you are taking away with you at the end of the day and potentially not being available every day, then yes, that will be a challenge. And yeah, I guess, hope that answers the question, Joelle. Okay, I see one hand. but I cannot. Oh, two hands. Joelle, please go ahead. Joelle, you're on mute if you are speaking.
That's what I wanted to ask with regards to access to the app.
All right. Okay. So hopefully you answered. Thanks, Joelle. Hanneke, please go ahead.
I just wanted to check, do we, the stock that we receive, does Department of Health put it on our systems, or are we supposed to go and put it on the system, on the SVS?
You have to put it on the system. There's the system is designed that only the site staff can update the details on that device. So there cannot be a web intervention even. So any stock updates that happen on the device must happen on site. So as you are receiving the stock, you need to be updating on the stock, on the system rather. What is going to happen is at a national level, they will have visibility of the stock that's been distributed and confirmed as received on the delivery notes and all of that. So they will be looking back at that. They'll be triangulate or looking and saying, if on our delivery notes we've received, your site has received 100. Therefore, when we're looking at the stock that has been received and how it's been used at the site, it should all balance back to the 100 vials that were received initially. So, but that will not happen as an automatic intervention from national saying we've sent 100, therefore we're putting 100 on the system. No, it has to be updated at the site.
Okay, because we're gonna do SA taxi and we receive our first stock tomorrow.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to know.
All right. I would recommend that you go through the reporting requirements document that we will make available at the end of the session, just to make sure that you are 100% up to speed in terms of how to update those stock levels, because you will be receiving stock directly and they will need to be captured correctly on the device.
Okay. Is there any contact if I have a problem? Is that Mr.
Mr. Jaha, but again, keep myself and Carrie in copy. I think Zenobia will be sharing our details, if not already. I think I have already emailed you, Hanneke. So you'll have my details, Nyara Torusike.
Okay.
Awesome. Joelle, your hand is up again.
I wanted to know, with regards to the stock that we have received and the verse that we've used, we cannot backdate and capture that stock, right?
No, you cannot. Would you have captured the information incorrectly to begin with?
We haven't yet used this online platform, but we have received, I think, 2022 vials last week.
Okay. So then I think in the deck, definitely in the deck, Stimbile did cover, there's a slide that talks about if you receive stock and start your vaccination activities before SVS is set up. If you can go back and read that slide and just make sure you're familiar, but it basically says that you must total all the transactions that would have happened to date. So for example, if you received your stock on Monday, and today's Thursday, you've been vaccinating, issuing stock, receiving stock, and all of that. At the close of business today, Thursday, when you're now summarizing and looking back at your stock balances, your current stock level should reflect what's in your bulk storage area in your freezer. But your issues and receipts and losses and transfers must be a total of what would have happened from Monday to Thursday. So if you received 2 loads of 100 vials, for example, I know that's not likely because you're only receiving once weekly at the most deliveries. But in the event that you had received 2 loads of 100, then today Understock received you to capture 200, for example. And then going forward, every other day, you only capture the events of the day. But for that very first update where activities would have already happened, but they weren't captured on the device, then you would need to total for your very first update.
Understand. Thank you.
All right. Colleagues, thank you so much. I've taken up 7 extra minutes of your time, but thank you for staying on the call. We have mentioned that for any queries, please channel those through Mr. Jaha and keep myself and Carrie in copy, and we will always refer back to you. The information is going to be made available on the SVS platform itself. I know Zenobia and team are also going to put it on the HIS support platform. So yes, all the information from today, the deck from today, and other supporting materials that we have available to you will be shared. And Zenobia, I think I will coordinate closely with you. I do not have the details for everyone that I can see on the call today, but I would definitely love to make sure that everyone has access to the information that they need to help them. So I think in closing, I'll just say thank you, everyone, and all the best with all your work out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.